Good morning. My name's Bill Spencer. I manage the strategic customer relationships for Microsoft Teams Engineering. And today I'm going to present Microsoft Teams, the hub for teamwork in Office 365. And I'm focusing on the version of Teams that's available in the government community cloud because we've just released this in July, and already there are several thousand state, local, federal agencies and vendors supporting them that are using Teams in the government community cloud. So you may be asking yourself, why do I need another collaboration tool in Office 365? I have Outlook, I have Skype for Business, I have Yammer. Why Teams? And the only reason you'd add another tool to your toolbox, if you will, is it saves you time. And for any of you who have half a dozen or more projects on which you spend half or more of your day, you will save 20 minutes at least using Teams. Now, I personally save at least an hour a day using Teams on a pure collaboration basis. I'm not sort of counting the calling and meeting capabilities, but I used to spend 4 hours a day at least on Outlook, and I love Outlook. I was on the original Outlook team, but I now spend 2 hours on Outlook and 1 hour in Teams, and I save an hour because Teams is just that much more efficient for managing information related to a project. So the reason Teams is better is it's designed for close collaboration around specific projects, so that you don't have all the information about various projects all mixed together in your inbox. Instead, they are categorized into separate chat rooms. So it's very easy to find a particular project, and you can, in a sense, switch modes from project A to project B to project X, and you can move quickly between those three. And particularly on a mobile device, it's a lot easier not to have to set up the context for each email message. And take a look at your email. I think you'll see that many of the conversations in the emails are not related to the subject line. And as a result, you feel like you have to open every single message. And then when you open the message, you have to set context because the context isn't provided by the subject line. Well, in Teams, the context is provided by the channel or chat room that you're in, and as I demo that, you'll see that it really is a significant time savings. But all of our jobs are becoming more collaborative. Teamwork is a bigger part of most information workers' jobs. It's no longer about an individual on their own PC at their desk. More and more now, we're working on mobile devices. We're working with colleagues on different shifts. We're working with colleagues in different time zones. And we're extending outside of our organization to include partners and vendors. And that's where the need for a tool to organize the information around a particular project becomes more important. And that's really what Teams is doing. And as a result, we've seen a tremendous adoption of Teams in its first year. Over 200, actually, we just had an announcement yesterday, I should update this slide, of 300 and roughly 340,000 organizations are using Teams. So it's the fastest growing version 1 enterprise product in Microsoft's history. And that momentum is only increasing now that we have support for the government community cloud. So another reason Teams is popular is because you can really collaborate with anyone on any device, anywhere that you have internet connectivity. So Teams is written as a web application, and then it is wrapped for the Windows and Mac desktops. So the same features ship on Mac, Windows, and the web. And also we have great browser support, so you can use a variety of browsers. And what I think is perhaps most important is the support on the iPhone, Android, and iOS iPad devices, because it's a great way of staying on top of your collaborations when you're on the go. Often when I'm commuting, I'll be going through and I'll actually bookmark items that I want to return to when I get to my desktop. and it's a really nice platform for that. So these are the 4 design goals for Teams. First of all, that's the one place for all of your activity, whether that's chat, apps, and meetings, that it's integrated with the rest of Office 365, and we'll show that as we go through our demo, but that's what it means to become the hub for teamwork in Office 365. And then you can pull in other services as well. And then finally, all of it's based on enterprise security and compliance. So not only does Teams have support for GCC, but also for GDPR, for the EU model clauses, for HIPAA, for FERPA, and with the data encrypted at rest and the data encrypted over the wire, it really is the most secure group chat product available. And I think it's unique in its support for the government community cloud. So with that, I'm going to ask Gordon to please take over the desktop, and we'll go through a quick overview of the basic features in Microsoft Teams. And Roxy, I'm just going to encourage you to mute folks as they join. They might not have seen my earlier comment on muting. If you could just please, I'm hearing just a little bit of feedback, not much, but since we're recording this, I wanted it to be okay. Great. So thank you. I appreciate Gordon for volunteering to demo this with me. So let's go through the basic features of Microsoft Teams. And you'll notice that Glenn is running this in a browser. So we will, and I encourage you to open up your laptops and maybe look at your Windows or Mac desktops, and you'll see this is the same features, and you can follow right along with us as we go through it. So on the far left is a dark purple bar, and if you wouldn't mind, Gordon, just sort of point to that dark purple bar on the left. That's called the app bar. And you'll notice that as he hovers over various apps, it changes, they highlight them, and clicking on one of them, it will change it. So if you could click on Teams, that would be great. And you can see it clicking on an app in the app bar populates the white column, which is called the left rail. But let's talk about the app bar for just a moment. There are key applications here: Activity, Chat, Teams, Meeting, and Files, okay? So Activity is the inbox for Teams, and we'll spend some time in there later. You'll notice before Gordon clicked on it that there were a number of items that were, there was actually a little count, and there's one there now. You can see that one. When one of Gordon's colleagues mentions him or replies to a thread that he created, it shows up in Activity. So you'll see a lot of different chats and channels, but if you think about it, Activity is kind of the one place you need to go in order to find the relevant information in Teams. The things you need to read is probably the best way to say it. The things you need to respond to, if you use Teams properly, you'll see them in Activity. Now, going down to Chat, Chat is probably the most popular feature of Teams, actually. Gordon, if you could just click on Chat, that would be great. And Roxy and Glenn, feel free to do some @mentions and other posts so that there's some activity that we can come back to later for Gordon. But clicking on Chat, you can see that there's a chat here with myself, and then there's also a chat that's a group chat called LT Team for emergency response. So often the group chats are used for leadership teams, so they can have a private conversation separate from the rest of the team. And chat is, like I said, the most popular feature. You can have up to 20 people participating in a group chat. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. The next app is Teams. And this is one we're going to spend a little bit more time on. And again, clicking on the app in the app bar populates this white column called the left rail. So now I'm going to spend a little bit of time in the white column, and we can see that Gordon is on two teams, public safety and emergency response. Now, a team is just a collection of people. It's almost like a distribution list. So just like you have distribution lists in email, you can have teams in group chat. And whenever you create a team, there's always a general channel created by default. I like the way you're expanding and contracting the list there. Thanks. I will spend a little bit more time on that in just a second, Gordon. And there's always a general channel, and that's where Teams keeps a log of what's going on in the team. People who've been added, maybe people who've left. When channels are created, all of that is captured in the general channel. So that's always the first chat listed right under the header for the team. And again, there's two here, public safety and emergency response. You'll notice that the default is, in the case of public safety, it's just the initials with a color tile next to it in the team header. And then on the far right side is the ... which is the More menu, and we'll go into that in more detail in just a moment. And then after the general channel, the channels are listed in alphabetical order. You can have 200 channels per team, and there can be as many as 2,500 people on a team. So teams can be quite large. And then when you have completely read all of the latest posts in a channel, the name of the channel will be in regular font. If there's something new, then the channel will be in bold. So you can see marketing, there's something new. The general channel under emergency response and under budget, both of those have new items that Gordon hasn't seen yet. And if there are channels you're not interested in, you can remove them as favorites. So say, for example, that Gordon's not interested in the campaign channel. You can go to the campaign channel, hover on the right side, and then you'll see a menu there, and he can remove that channel as a favorite. And we'll go through these channel items in a little bit more detail. He can restore that as a favorite by clicking on the More Channel option, clicking on the star, and then he's returned that to being a favorite. So each person on the team can customize which channels are shown by default, and they can also order the channels. They can stack rank them or move them around. So Gordon, could you click on emergency response, click on the channel header, and then drag it up above public safety? Yeah, click and drag. There we go. So you can reorder the channels you can reorder the teams in the order you'd like them to be in. And at the bottom of the left rail, there is the option to join or create a team. And we'll come back to that one in just a little bit. Now this left rail is really multi-purpose, and we'll show that as we go into the next area. The next area is that light gray or light brown area. That's called the main arena. It takes up about 60% of the screen on the right side. And we'll just go from top to bottom in the main arena. So at the very top is a search box, and this is probably the most useful feature in Teams, I think. Let's do a quick search here on the word budget. And you'll see the search results come into, click on search for budget, and the search results show up in the left rail. So we can see each time someone has mentioned the word budget in a post. And why don't you click on one of those so that they can see that it expands out and takes you right to that spot in the main arena. Let's also click on people. I don't think there's any people that come up when you look for budget. Yeah, in some of your organizations, keywords like that may result in an Active Directory listing. And then clicking on files, we should be able to see any of the files related to the budget. You can see there's several there. Okay, great. So let's Uh, oh, we're going a little bit ahead there. Yeah, okay. So you can preview the files when you click on them. Excellent. That's fine. Let's click back on the Teams app in the app bar. So we restore our view here. We can keep going down the listing. Okay, there we go. So we started with the top. There's really five things I wanted to talk about in the main arena. So the top one is the search box. Right beneath that is the navigation bar, and you can see the name of the team, public safety, and that's actually a hot item. You can click on that. And then there's general, which is the name of the particular, there we go, the name of the particular channel that we're in. And you'll notice that this team has guests. So that's a great flag, so you know, and you can click on that if you'd like, so you can see who the guests are in a particular team. But, you might want to be on slightly better behavior when you have some guests, and you can see I've actually added myself my Microsoft address and my Hotmail address. You can do both of those and add them as guests. Now let's click on the back arrow in the upper left. So you can navigate through just as you would in the browser, the navigation, there we go. And brings us back to our last view. Sometimes that's a really helpful way of changing the view when you're in a channel, for example, or when you're in a particular tab, for example. Okay, so we've talked about search box, we've talked about the navigation bar, the fact you can have guests. A great thing about Teams is you can have, for each licensed user in your organization, say you have 10,000, you can have 5 additional guests for each licensed user at no additional cost to your organization or to the guests. So for an organization of 10,000 licensed users, you could have 50,000 guests, and these could be partners, they could be suppliers, they could be constituents, they could be members of sister organizations that you're collaborating with, and they can show up right here in. You can add them with IT control and permission to one of your particular teams. And when a guest joins the team, they see everything in a particular team, all the channels, etc. They can chat with individuals, but they cannot look at your directory. They cannot go to anything inside Teams, only the particular team they've been added to. So I've been added to public safety. I might not have been added to emergency response, and then I wouldn't be able to see anything in the emergency response team, but I would be able to see all the channels, not only current, but also the history in the public safety. So that's a helpful thing for collaboration. Okay, so let's keep going. Right beneath the navigation bar is the tab line, and we can see a number of different tabs here. The default is always to go to conversations, but you can also see files. So notice, for example, that the project budget and the project timeline are attached in the conversation threads below. And when something is attached in the conversation thread, it's stored in the Files tab. So you don't have to, if you're looking for a particular file, you don't need to scroll through the whole conversation to find it as you might in email looking for attachments. Instead, you can just click on the Files tab and find the latest file. So if you wouldn't mind clicking on the Files tab right now, that's actually the project timeline. When I was thinking of the Files tab, it's right next to Conversations. Gordon, yeah, just click on the Files tab. Thank you. So it's taking a moment for it to render. There we go. And we can see a number of different files that have been attached here in the conversation thread, and they're all listed right here in this Files tab. This is a view into SharePoint, and we'll spend a little bit more time on this in just a moment. Clicking back on Conversations. Actually, could you click on, let's click on Marketing. I think Marketing is one that has a simpler tab structure. So notice that this one has files, decisions, and when you click on marketing, it only has conversations and files. And then there's a plus sign. Why don't you click on that quickly so you can see the additional types of file types that you can add as tabs. So this is what we mean by a hub for teamwork in Office 365, because you can customize each channel with a specific set of Office 365 and even third-party resources and make them available to your users, to anyone on the team. Why don't we close out of this box? We'll come back to that as we do some tab customization in a minute. Okay, why don't we click back on the general channel we were just in under Public Safety. Great. And you'll notice that there's this one has been customized with a tab for decisions, for the project timeline, and for the project budget. And since the project budget was added relatively recently, it's got that little new badge on there. Okay, so then going into the main arena, we can see that the general tab has captured when people are added to the team, like Allie or Gordon, Michelle Carter, etc. And then let's see, there's 1, 2, 3 threads here. So you'll notice that Teams has different threads. So Gordon, could you click on the reply box for one of those threads? So the conversations in Public Safety, in the general channel, have additional threads so you can keep the related conversations together. Notice the reply box right beneath, say, the project budget thread. Yeah, why don't you click on that? Do an @ mention for Roxy. And now it looked odd there because that @ mention didn't take. It looks like you backed up a little too fast. So I'm just going to, yeah, okay, let's do this a little bit more slowly so everyone can follow along. Okay, there we go. Select Roxy, great. Now I like to back up over the person's last name to keep it a little bit more informal. There we go, perfect, now exactly. Excellent, and then hit return. So you'll notice that when you do a simple post, simple reply, just as Gordon did there, that it you just hit return. So it's just like texting with popular consumer applications like WhatsApp or Facebook, and the @ mentions kind of work the same way. You'll notice that an @ mention inserts, in a sense, an object. So hovering over Roxy's name, we can see more details about her. There we go. And you can initiate a chat. You can see where she is in the organization. If you have the appropriate support, you can call her. But notice when you're on the receiving end of an @ mention, clicking out of that box, notice that Gordon's name shows up in bold because that's his view. So an @ mention to someone else, you will have it in that kind of blue, that dark blue. But in the case of when you're on the receiving end and someone has @ mentioned you, your name will be in red and bold, and then there's this red badge on the far right side. So it's easy to scan through and find where you were @ mentioned. And these @ mentions are very important. You'll see us using them quite a bit, because when you do an @ mention, not only does it show your name show up in clear font, like clear bold font like that, but also you get a notification in activity, and that can lead to you getting an email message or a pop-up in the lower right side, and it's sort of a way for you to stay on top of all of your communications in Teams. All right, so going further down, we've got a couple different threads here. Notice that you can collapse the threads. So why don't we do collapse all right below project budget, right below where the file's attached for project budget. Okay, scrolling down. There we go. Okay, there's collapse all right below project budget, exactly there. So Teams does a good job automatically collapsing in many cases, but it'll expand out so you can read as well. So why don't you collapse that? And then if you're looking for, notice, for example, the at mention to Gordon is kind of buried now that he's collapsed it. So if he sees that at mention badge on the right side, he can go where it says 3 replies from you and Bill and Roxy, and then click on that to expand it out again. And then he can see the whole thread. Now, if you want to create a new thread, instead of replying at the bottom of each thread, you'll see there's a reply box. All the way at the very bottom, it says start a new conversation, and that's the compose box. So that's really the 5th item I wanted to talk about in the main arena, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in our next example. Okay, so, and I can see there's some great questions going on the side there, so keep that up. We're lucky to have Roxy and Glenn able to answer any questions you might have. So now we're going to go through the process of creating a new team. So to do that, we'll go to the bottom of the left rail, the white column, where it says Join or Create Team. Clicking on that, we have the option of joining an existing team or creating our own. Now, there's 2 types of teams. There are public teams and private teams. And when you create a public team, anyone can join up to 2,500 people. And they can join themselves. And the teams will be listed here in this area. Or notice there's a search box in the upper right if you're looking for a particular team. But in this case, let's create a new team. And let's call this one Corrections. Oh, excellent. And let's see, there's 2 types here.
Sorry, I didn't fully hear you.
That's all right.
Cut out.
Yeah, let's call it Corrections. And you can add a description. That's a best practice. We'll skip over that in the interest of time. And notice there's an option here for private or public. Let's make this a public team. Private teams are useful for bringing in people like on training, but a private team is useful for sort of getting your work done without getting distracted. And private teams are often not even listed. That's an IT setting. They can either be shown in the search or not. We tend to say not at Microsoft because we've seen how in distribution lists they can just get so, for email, they can get so, you can have just a proliferation of distribution lists because, you create the cool kids and then some not so cool kids join your distribution list and then you end up, having the real cool kids distribution list. And, if your organization's like Microsoft, we have more distribution lists than we have employees. So we really want to avoid that kind of proliferation with teams, and that's why we've taken this approach towards defaulting in a public team, defaulting to a private team. We've also noticed that people tend to share more in smaller teams. So you have greater participation across the whole team when you have a team of, say, 50 people or so. And as you get larger into the hundreds, then there's more people who are kind of lurking, if you will. They're not participating, they're just reading as opposed to contributing. So that's why we've defaulted to the private. But let's create a public team. And you'll notice there's a feature here that you can create a team using an existing team as a template. And that's a real time saver, especially if someone has created a really strong, say, project management approach. And they've identified a good set of channels and tabs within those channels. Well, you may want to use that as a template. As long as you're a member of that team, you can create a team using the existing one as a template. But in this case, we're just going to click Next. And I wanted to point out that many organizations restrict who has access or who has the ability to create a team. Let's add Glenn and Roxy to our team. And you'll notice you can type in the names, put in more than one, click Add. And then let's promote Roxy to being an owner. It's always good to have more than one owner on a team. So if you ever create a team, you want to have a colleague set up as another colleague set up as an owner. So if something needs to change while you're on vacation, then they can work with Roxy to do that in this case. And then you can go ahead and click Close. And this will go through the process of creating a team. Now, I was mentioning that IT can control who in the organization, so they can create a security group of, say, IT administrators or a certain level in the organization, and those people can create a team, and everyone else would just see the option of joining a team, and they would have public teams. And when you have a private team, the only people who can join are those who've been invited. So that's a nice approach. Okay, so I can see Glenn's already posted here. Maybe Roxy wants to use a Giphy when she posts on the corrections team. You'll notice that this default team has one channel, the general channel, and then it has 3 tabs in the general channel: Files, Corrections, Files, and Wiki. And right in the middle are some pretty useful buttons that lots of people don't know those are actually functional, but we'll talk about that in a second. Now, I like to create a new thread using the form for the compose box. And to see that, right under the word start, at the bottom is the compose box, and right below the word start is an A with a pen next to it. So let's click on that, and that creates the compose form, which gives us formatting options. See that formatting line, starting with bold, italics, underline. And then right beneath that is a subject line. So let's add the subject here, which is welcome to the corrections team. Perfect. Now let's start our post with @mentions. I think that's really a best practice. So let's @mention Glenn and backspace over his last name, comma, @mention Roxy. And you'll notice that it does a quick resolution there, comma. And then I want to show you 2 other kinds of @mentions. Now, I don't really encourage these that much because I think individual @mentions are really best. But you can also @mention the whole channel that you're in. So everyone who's favorited this channel. So start to type the word channel. I'm sorry, why don't you back up? I'm sorry, you leapt ahead there. Let's do it a little bit more slowly. Okay, comma, @mention, and start to type the word channel. There we go. And you'll see that it fills in the name of the general channel. So go ahead and resolve that. And you've got general there, inserted comma. And then start to type the word team. I'm sorry, @mention, and then team. And you'll notice it fills in the name of the team, which is the corrections team. So that way you can @mention the entire team as well. Great. So those are 3 different kinds of @mentions. My favorite by far is the individual @mention. And part of the philosophy with teams is to create a little bit more effort on the part of the person who is posting in order to save all of the reader's time. So the way it works at Microsoft is if someone has not individually @mentioned me, there's no expectation that I will have read a particular post. Because, you know, I'm a member of quite a few different teams, probably well over 200 channels. I can't stay on top of all those channels. So it is up to the individual, it's up to the person posting to @mention me. And sometimes people will say, hey, Bill, did you read, such and such a post? And my question will be, well, did you @mention me? And then they might say, oh, no, maybe I @mentioned the channel or @mentioned the team. I say, okay, could you just @mention me individually so that I know where to find it? And while I'm doing this, if Roxy, if you could do some @mentions in various channels so that Gordon, and then we'll be able to see them show up in the Activity app. Okay, so we've got some app mentions here for the team and the channel. And then why don't we say, to keep us all on the same page, please follow the urgent channel. So if you could make that as your text after your app mentions. Actually, it's a singular, urgent channel to keep us all on the same page. Great. All right. So we're going to leave this post just here, and we're going to go right up above where it says create more channels, and we are going to create the urgent channel. So yeah, click on that button, and let's put a 1 and a dash before the urgent channel, actually. Great. And let's put where it says automatically favorite this channel for the whole team. We're going to choose that option. It's a really good idea to have an escalations or an urgent channel so that if you really need to pull people in from say Outlook where they spend most of their day, you can do that through this channel. So let's click on the word add, and we'll create that channel. Perfect. Okay. And let's go through the process of following a channel so people can see how to do that. So go up to the ... up at in the navigation bar, right next to the star for urgent. We can put a star in here to favorite. We might as well put a star in there to favorite it. There we go. And let's put ... and let's look at this drop-down menu. So you have the option at the channel level to edit this channel, to get an email address to the channel, to get a link to the channel, delete this channel, follow this channel, open in SharePoint. Click on follow this channel. Now what this means is every time someone posts in this channel, Gordon will get a notification in his Activity app. So when we finish this, Glenn, if you could please post an important message in the urgent channel, I would appreciate that. Okay, so we've added the urgent channel. Now let's go over to the ... for the team header. That's right, just above that for the team. Click on that. No, you were right. You're right there. Yep, perfect. Now this is for the team, and you'll notice that some of these look very similar. Remove as a favorite, manage the team, add a channel, add members, leave the team, edit team, get a link to the team, delete this team. Let's click on add channel. Great. And we will add the budget channel. No, don't number this one actually. I want to show how the sorting works. That's great. And sure, you could, well, no, we don't need everyone to be this. Everyone doesn't need this one as a favorite. Yeah, click on add. In general, I don't have everyone as a favorite because that can really botch up people's view on their left rail. Okay, so again, Gordon, if you could post an Glenn, if you could post an important message in the urgent channel, I'd appreciate it. All right, so now we're in the budget channel, and let's go back to general because now we've got a couple different channels, and you can notice the sort order that you have urgent, and you've got one more channel that's not favorited. That's the budget channel, which is hidden, we can continue our message here. So we showed how to follow a channel. Let's create a link to the channel. So let's go to the ... for the urgent channel, which is on the left rail. There we go. And see where it says get a link to this channel? Let's get the link, copy that into our clipboard, and let's select the word the urgent channel in the body, the phrase an urgent channel in the body of your message. Great. And click on the two links that look like a chain link, and then insert the link to the channel so people can navigate to it easily. Click Insert. And you'll notice that the font has changed, but I like to make this more obvious. So let's select that font. Let's select that text one more time. And let's click bold and underline. And let's do the A with the underline so we can change that font and choose whatever font color you want. There we go. And then, so that makes it more obvious that it's clickable. And then let's go to the end of this sentence and hit return. And you'll notice that that does not send the message, because when you're in the compose form, you need you can enter spaces. So let's click return one more time. You can see it's sort of the improved formatting that comes with this approach. Type thank you. And let's insert some fun elements here. So down at the bottom, there is a smiley face with a circle around it. And let's choose one of those emojis. Choose whichever one appeals to you. I'm not sure what happened there. There we go. Okay. Now let's click on the GIF item right next to it, and let's search for the word thank you or thanks, whatever. And we get these emoji, or we get these Giphies from Giphy.com, and they're pretty fun. I mean, some of them are a little edgy, but generally they're helpful. I view these as ways of sort of softening a direct message. Choose one of these that appeals to you. Great. And just to show all the different fun elements here, let's go to the smiley face with a square around it. And this is an example of an editable meme. My favorite's the little boy with the fist on the beach. And you can edit the font in these, so we can, or edit the text. So we could say go, or whatever you want to put in there. Go team. Perfect. Great. Okay, so let's hit send, and the way to do that is the paper airplane icon in the lower right. That's how you send when you're in the compose form. So, this one we've made, almost a caricature of the fun elements, but it is a great way of building team morale. And sometimes, you have to say no. To say no in kind of a fun way is better in a group collaboration tool like this. Okay, now say that we wanted to really emphasize the importance of this message. We can go back in and edit this message, and to do that we want to go to the More menu, and in general when you're looking for the More menu, hover on the right side of an item. So you can see there, let's click on the dot 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 and look at this menu, and that includes edit, delete, mark as unread, copy a link. It's very helpful to copy links to messages and post them in email or other teams. But let's edit this one. And we're going to look at that formatting bar at the top and see the last one there. It's an exclamation mark. And it's worthwhile spending time with these. The one with the open and close parens, that's for code. Paragraph helps a little bit on formatting. I don't find that one super useful, candidly. But the next one, the exclamation mark, that marks this message as important. And you'll notice when he does it, it has added the red important text there on the side. Clicking send. Now, by using the paper airplane in the icon lower right, we can see that badge on the right. Now, when you're on the receiving end of an important message, you'll notice it even shows up in the left rail, right on the urgent channel. That's where Glenn Yeah, Glenn posted an important message earlier, and you'll also notice that there is up in the activity app, there's an icon of a one item. So we'll look at those later, but that gives you a sense for how you can make your messages stand out more effectively using formatting and using at mentions and using these sort of fun elements, the Giphies and the stickers, etc. Okay, so now let's do a little customization for our budget channel. That was the other channel we created. Let's go to where it says one more channel, highlight that, and let's make this channel a favorite. Let's put the star there so we can work in it. Great. And you'll notice in the top of in the top of the general channel, we have conversations, files, and wiki. Okay, let's click on budget, and we have those same items. We're going to do some customization of tabs. So the first thing we need to do is get the budget process going. So let's start with an at mention to Roxy and say, at Roxy, please review and approve my budget. All right. And then using the paper clip icon directly below the word please, we can attach the budget file. Upload from my computer and choose the budget. Did you have a chance to save out the file that I sent you earlier?
I did, and I have to remember where I put it.
Your desktop, maybe, or?
I thought I had put it in here.
Well, in the interest of time, do you want to just capture, if utilization plan is safe or BP learning path picker is safe, just grab one of those. Oh, there you go. Okay. There we go.
There it is.
Okay. Just grab that. Open it up. Notice the light green bar on the bottom. That's the status bar of attachment. You want to wait for that to complete and then hit send. And by the way, Roxy and Glenn, feel free to do responses and posts in other channels for Gordon to see later, because we're going to talk about activity in just a moment. Okay, great. So you can see this file here as it's attached in the conversation thread, but clicking on Files, we can see in the Files tab, we can see it is here, and it's saved in a SharePoint folder in the share that is created when you create the team. And each channel has its own folder, and you can look at that folder structure in SharePoint if you'd like by clicking on the Open in SharePoint, which I don't want you to do in the interest of time, but just notice that there's an option for opening in SharePoint right in the middle there. Exactly. Now let's go to the far right to the ... that's associated with this folder, and you can see almost everything that's available in SharePoint is available here in Teams. You can edit in Teams, you can open in Excel, you can open in SharePoint, you can move, copy, download, delete, rename, get a link. That last one I think is the most interesting. Make this a tab that's specific to Teams. And notice on the top we have Conversations, Files, and Wiki tab and the plus sign. When Gordon clicks on Make this a tab, you'll see that the project budget will be added to the tab line. And the way to think about tabs is imagine that you are together with your project team and you're all in a conference room with whiteboards on the wall. And so often people will start to write on the whiteboards, here's our to-do list, here is the decisions we need to make, maybe they'll write up a timeline on the whiteboard, and all of those things you can think of as tabs. So just like, what Teams is trying to help you to do is create a work environment in a channel that's almost as useful as everyone being together in the same conference room. And you can keep on top of this work. These tabs are also available on your mobile device. So you can collaborate anywhere you can use Teams. And that makes it a really powerful environment for sharing complex information like this Excel spreadsheet, or you can imagine you can do this with PowerPoint and Word, and over time more and more services will be available, not only from Microsoft, but even third parties to your users. And everyone on the whole team sees these tabs in the same order. Let's do another thing here. Let's expand out using the two arrows in the upper right, the kind of an up right and down left arrow. Let's click on that, and you'll notice that it expands out so it covers the left rail, so you have more area to work. And then right next to that is a little chat icon, and clicking on that chat icon, I can add a comment here. So I can click on start a conversation, and then say @Glenn. Oop, yeah, @Glenn. There we go. Please see item 12. Is that enough for legal? And hit return. So instead of having comments buried in an Excel spreadsheet, I can have them right here at the top level in Teams, and you can see that you can have the comments right alongside the tab, but let's click on the back arrow in the upper left corner. Clicking on that, it takes us back into this. Click it one more time to take us back into conversations. And you can see that conversation that was happening in the tab is also captured right here in the conversations thread. So you don't have to go through every tab to find those discussions. You can see them right here, and they're all searchable in the search box. So it's great to see how this whole process works. Okay, so now let's do another thing here. Let's click on Wiki. I just want to show a little bit more in terms of customizing tabs, and then we'll finish with chat. So let's rename Wiki Decisions. Click on the little caret next to Wiki, and we can rename it Decisions. I think it's always important to have a place to capture decisions, and so often people just go with sort of the name of the product, and instead you want to name these things, and you can have multiple wikis if you want. Clicking on the plus, you can see all the various options for adding additional tabs. You can add them, for documents, for Excel, for Power BI, PowerPoint, SharePoint, Wiki, Word, etc. Let's close that. And there's one more thing I want to show. Just like you can organize the order of your teams, you can drag and drop your channels, your tabs as well. So let's click Decisions and pull it after Project Budget. Say Project Budget is sort of logically first, and then Decisions follow out of that. So you can set that order. Conversations and Files are always the first tabs, but after that you can organize them. Okay, great. So then let's talk about activity for just a moment. Notice that there are 3 items. It's always important to look at your activity app and clear that app. So clicking on that, we can see a few things. We can see where Glenn has done likes. He's responded to a message he responded to that question that Gordon just gave him about the legal budget. And you can filter these. So if you really want to focus on your @mentions, you can go to that little funnel type icon there at the top of the left rail and just look at your @mentions, and you can see all the places where you've been @mentioned. Let's go back and we can look for all the places where people have, clicking on that filter one more time where it says @mentions, yeah, click on that. We can see where people have responded to a thread. So let's click on that and choose replies. Perfect. Let's click on that one more time and look at the places where you're following. Remember we followed the urgent channel? So let's click on that, and you can see that there is a couple posts in the urgent channel, including that important message we talked about earlier, like Glenn's. Let's give Glenn's a thumbs up on that one. And let's say that Gordon was working on his phone and he wanted to respond maybe in person to one of these important messages. Let's bookmark these items. Actually, let's bookmark an item here, and then why don't we unfollow? Click where the filter is. Go up to the filter go up to the filter, and let's click on. See where Glenn said the budget. The response on the budget, and let's follow one of those. You can go to the dot dot dot, either one of those. Go to the dot 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 in the upper right there, and bookmark that as well. Perfect. Okay, because we're going to talk about that next. So I just have this great feeling when I clear my activity, I'm all caught up. But I also am often saving these messages, particularly on a mobile device. Let's go up where it says your profile picture, the GS in the upper right corner, and let's look at your saved items. So everything you bookmark is saved, is stored on the saved list, and I can bookmark items when I'm on my mobile device, and then come into the office, work on my PC, and unbookmark the items. So just click on those purple bookmarks wherever they are to unbookmark them. There we go. And I clear that. And there's a really great feeling when my activity list is cleared, my save list is cleared. Next thing I want to do is clear my chats. So let's click on chat. And to start a new chat, we can see we've got a couple chats going on. We've got this LT, LT team for the emergency response team. So this is just all the leads. And let's say we want to add Roxy to this. Let's go to the circle and the people in it in the upper left, upper right corner. There we go. Clicking on that. We want to include the chat history so she can see everything that's going on. Include all the chat history. It might be that Roxy's already in it. Let's see. Okay, yeah, let's add her. There we go. Perfect. And if we wanted to see who all was in this team, we could go up to where it says 4 participants, and we can see who all the participants are. And notice you have the option of leaving the team if you want. And you can rename this team. So let's click on where the little pen is, and you can rename this. And maybe it's redundant, for example, to say LT for emergency response team. So let's just delete the word team in the middle there. Yeah, the first use of the word team. There we go. And then click save. And you can name any chat that you have more than one participant in. Let's create a new one with Roxy, clicking on the pen with the little piece of paper at the top of the left rail, and we could type in Roxy's name, and then just type in a message, welcome to the leadership team. Now in the conversations that happen in channels, those files are stored in SharePoint. In the case of the files in a chat conversation, and you can have a chat with up to 20 people, those files are stored in OneDrive for Business. And only the people who are in that chat conversation can see those files. So you could, yeah, so, and you'll notice in a one-on-one chat that you have additional tabs. So you have conversations, files, organization, activity. Clicking on the plus sign, in a one-on-one chat, you can add additional capabilities. So you can add additional tabs, like Power BI. And then closing out of that, when you're in a group chat, you don't have the ability to add additional tabs. So this has been a very quick introduction to Teams. I really encourage you to review this video. I'll be sending out a copy to all of you, and to share it with your colleagues. And please tell your colleagues about future training. I want to thank Gordon especially for demoing with me, and Glenn and Roxy, thank you so much for participating as well. I'm going to stop the recording now. If there are